Welcome back, Captains. I'm your host, USS Endeavor, and welcome aboard the Tier 5 Russian cruiser, the Gorky. Now, to be perfectly honest, I didn't put a lot of stock in this ship because I have another ship that is extremely similar to this one, which is a premium version, which is the Molotov. And for a long time, up until, well, pretty much when I made this video, I was under the impression that there was absolutely nothing different from the Molotov and the Gorky other than the premium versus the tech tree version. This being the tech tree, I was like, well, what is the point? Why would you ever really want to play this ship if you already have the Molotov? And I just wanted to say right off the bat, I was wrong. And I did a side-by-side comparison of both ships. I looked at each stat line by line, and there is a difference between the two ships, and we're going to go over that. But first, we're going to look at the commander in which we're using, so let's get to that first. We have Nikolai Kuznetsov again at the helm. He is a free-to-play commander, and I'm going to try and keep this as free-to-play as possible since it's a tech tree series. And he's the exact same build and setup from when we played the Kotovsky. So we are all speccing into range, concealment, and reload, and just helping accentuate the performance of these guns to its maximum. And that's what Kuznetsov can offer for you. And the range definitely helps. So now that we're at Tier 5, we have 2 mod slots. And in the first one, we're choosing Aiming Systems Mod 1. And in the second, we are using the Propulsion mod, which does help with our jockeying speed, which is something we talked about in the last video. Moving on to the consumables, you have your regular damage con. You do have a sonar, which now can detect ships out to 4 kilometers, and a catapult fighter, which comes stock. Later down the line, we do get a little bit better consumables, but that's what we got to work with. Now, here are the stats, and I'm going to go over which ones are different. A lot of it is similar from the Gorky and the Molotov, and this is one of those. The survivability is the exact same on both ships. They both have 28,400 hit points, and the armor scheme is exactly the same. So everything that you're about to see when it comes to the armor later when we look at it, it's all the same. So, and I looked at each one. Onto the artillery. There is only one difference between the Gorky and the Molotov when it comes to the artillery, in both the secondaries and in the main batteries, and that is just the range. The range is 0.1 kilometer difference between the Gorky and the Molotov. The Molotov, I guess you could say, wins slightly, but for all intents and purposes, the guns are exactly the same. Now, the torpedoes, this is where it differs. The torpedoes, like I said, on this line are really not all that great to begin with. So the differences here, I feel, are negligible and kind of silly to talk about. You have worse damage. The reload's the same. The torpedo range on this one, for some odd reason, is 3.9 kilometers. The Molotov's is 4 kilometers, and the torpedo speed is 63 knots versus 65 knots on the Molotov. So technically worse torpedoes, but to be honest, the torpedoes are bad on the Molotov too. So I don't really consider that a very good stat line to put in the favor of the Molotov. Now here's the biggest difference between the Gorky and the Molotov. The Gorky wins pretty convincingly in the AA department. Now, normally I don't put a lot of stock into the AA because it's not really that big of a stat line for me, but at Tier 5, the likelihood to run into a carrier is really high, so you can't ignore this. And there is a huge difference between your AA starting at 5 kilometers with the Gorky, and the Molotov starts its AA at around 3.5, which is a huge difference and really puts it in the favor of the Gorky, and it makes it a lot more manageable against carriers. Lastly, these last two stat lines are exactly the same from the Gorky and the Molotovs. So what you're about to see, both ships share the identical statistics. Maximum speed with this build, 38.9 knots, a really bad turning circle radius at 860 meters with a 7.8 rudder shift. And then your concealment is around 11.7 kilometers, 7.3 from the air, 7 while firing from smoke. So looking at both ships and all of their stats compared side by side, I honestly would put the Gorky slightly ahead of the Molotov. Now, in the last video, when it comes to the armor, as you can see, the armor on this thing is still non-existent. But it should be very familiar to you because it's the exact same hull design as the Kotovsky. It's just they changed the turret layout. Whereas you have 9 guns on the Gorky, 6 in the front and 3 in the back, and the configuration that most people are used to, they kept all of the same hull design and armor stats. So it's just as squishy, and in fact, it's even squishier now that you're a tier higher because you're going up against battleships that can really pin and ruin your day. All right, captains, here we go. We are in the Gorky. We are on Crash Zone, and we are in a domination game mode, and we're in a tier 5, tier 6 lobby. I'm by myself, so we're technically bottom tier, and there's only 1 destroyer per side. And so here we go. And if you thought last game and the citadels that we got were crazy and nuts, just wait until you see this. I know the thumbnail has given it away, but holy crap, I never thought that we were going to get the kind of numbers that we did. So it's going to be an exciting game for sure. Right off the bat here, though, our lone destroyer is still parked and hasn't figured out how to switch on the accelerator button yet, and unfortunately is going to stay that way. I'm guessing the captain fell asleep, and even though the battle started, he is going to be a non-factor and not available to help spot for us for the entirety of the game. But because this is a carrier match, we will have some spotting just from the carrier, but that is a huge handicap right off the bat. And to be honest, looking at that just from experience tells you that if your destroyer is not playing and he's the only one in the game, the chances of you winning are very, very low. But we're going to do our best regardless. So here we go. Focusing on the right-hand side on Charlie, because there's only 1 destroyer. I'm not sure if he spawned over here, but we also have the carrier to contend with. As you can see, Bravo is starting to get flipped, so right off the bat, that tells me that the destroyer has made its way into Bravo. And if you look at the mini-map down over by Alpha, that's where both of our carrier planes have resided. So there's nobody over here to give us any kind of spotting for both our team or on their team. So it's pretty much fair game for both sides, as the Budyani shows up along with the Surrey that is also over there, and you have another cruiser that is off the right-hand side, and there the battleship shows up. So everybody pretty much gets spotted right at the same time. And I got to be honest, this is where the red team makes, again, a pretty big mistake. I'm spotted, I'm lit up, all 4 ships have an opportunity to shoot at me, and none of them really do, as we have gotten 3 citadels right off the bat on the Budyani, and then we get 3 on the Shores way out there, and then we get 2 by the Devonshire right in front of us. That is probably the fastest 8 citadels I've gotten against 3 different targets ever, and all happened with 3 back-to-back salvos. So that was hilarious. That was a very, very fast 40K for the most part. The Shores is still sticking his nose out there. We've taken minimal damage. Haven't been able to really take advantage of getting into the cap yet, but they haven't either. And now I'm going to try and go dark and get behind here. Our Fuso, which is furiously pushed into the middle here, is that he's doing a pretty good job as being a distraction, which is why I don't think I was taking a lot of shots towards me. He's been kind of taking a lot of the brunt and the aggression, which is nice to see. Now that the Devonshire has popped back up, we're going to refocus on him. And again, these shell characteristics are very, very good. Even at range, their penetration is pretty good. But now that the Devonshire is starting to angle away, I got to be honest, he was angling back in right there, so I thought that I might actually get another citadel, but unfortunately we don't. And even though the shell velocity on these are really, really good, here at Tier 5 with the Gorky, they're 180 millimeter shells, which is a little bit better than the 152s that you had with the Kotovsky. They are going up, and even the Talon still has these same 180 millimeter shells, but you get 12 of them as opposed to the 9. So that's the difference between the Gorky and the Talon. We'll go over that more whenever we focus on the Talon, but here, our ships are finally making their way into Charlie, so we need to get in here and back them up. But the Devonshire takes a nasty whack. He's down to almost nothing, and this salvo right here is going to be enough to take him out. To be honest, I thought that he was going to get taken out by right there, but we get the kill, and now we're going to make our way into Charlie. Our carrier finally makes his way over here to help spot, but it's kind of a little too late. We have all the information that we need. And as we're coming into the cap to help take the cap, the Shores is making his way slightly around the corner. I wasn't quite sure if we had the shot, but he's drifting a little too much, and we aim it perfectly, and boom, he's off the board. And so now their enemy carrier has decided to come over here, and this is where the strength of the AA on this ship versus the Molotov really shines, and that we're able to start peppering these planes from 5 kilometers as opposed to the 3.5, which can't be understated. Now, the AA overall is not the best, but compared to the Molotov, it is much, much better. Here, we almost make a mistake as we're trying to turn out, but we're trying to slow down as well because I want to be able to take this cap, and I got a little too tunnel visioned on the Poltava, and we literally get to the edge of where we almost drift out the cap, but we were finally able to take it. So almost a potato move on my part, but we recognized right literally at the last second that we needed to stop. Finally take the cap. So now we have a 2-to-1 cap advantage, and we are up on ships slightly. That's when I noticed that the Aoba is making his way over, and he is flat broadside to me as well. And so we're going to start chiming in, and hopefully we can take advantage of this broadside target that's still way out there. But we don't exactly get the best RNG, and now that the Aoba has recognized that we are focusing him, he wisely starts to turn in, which is going to help him not be able to take any potential citadels from us. And since he's starting to angle back, we are going to switch to HE and see if we can set a couple of fires and break a couple of modules on this guy. The other thing that I am aware of, or I'm about to be aware of, is that he is not alone, and he is about to get backed up by the Tier 6 battleship, the Rook, which I just unlocked not too long ago, and that's something I cannot go toe-to-toe against from this close of range. And as you can see right off on the left-hand side, he is really approaching. I don't know what happened with that shot. I didn't think I was aiming that far off, but apparently that was just a big whiff on my part. So, like I said, the Rook's coming in. He's very healthy still. The Aoba has been doing a good job of angling and changing directions, and I haven't exactly been getting the best dispersion either. The Rook is just outside my range, which kind of shows... of our torpedoes, which shows the weakness of this line. It's not good when it comes to torpedoes. I mean, he's within 5 kilometers of me, and I still can't even get my torpedoes off. Again, the torpedoes on this thing is only reaches out to 3.9, and because the Rook is technically angled slightly away, I'm not even going to be able to use these. So I'm forced to have to back up and I'm trying to get out of dodge. I'm technically not spotted here, which is crazy. I'm just outside of the ability for him to spot me, but I'm still able to get these shells on target. But even though he's flat broadside and I am aiming on the upper belt, I'm still not getting really good hits on him. Thankfully, though, our Scharnhorst, which is our friendly Scharnhorst, is making his way, and he is going to start going toe-to-toe against that rook. If he's able to take him out, then I feel a lot better about coming in to try and take out that Aoba. I just can't do that. And because we're up on score and we're up on ship count, I don't want to try and make any unnecessary plays to get me killed at this middle point of the game. We've done well to this point, and that is when the Scharnhorst does take out the rook, but unfortunately the rook also repays the favor and takes him out. So now that the battleship threat is gone, now I feel a lot better about going in here and trying to take out the Aoba. The Aoba, I guess, he loses track of me. He's not got his Hydra running as far as I can tell, and I don't want to give away my position as far as which move I'm about to make. So, because if I can catch this guy's broadside as I come around this corner and he's not ready for it, I'm thinking I can blap him right off the face of the map. So that's the plan. As I'm pushing around the corner, he is starting to make a play for the cap, and my gamble does pay off. He has no idea that I'm making this turn. He is flat broadside. His guns aren't even pointed at me. And we almost do what I was planning on doing. Take him down to virtually nothing, and then our New Orleans finishes him off. So we do technically miss out on that kill, which would have brought me up to 3. And so that was a little unfortunate. But he's off the board, and that's what's important. Only 3 ships remaining. You have the enemy carrier, this Chumfon, and then the Poltava from earlier. As that shot, we get a citadel and the high caliber for our efforts. And now we're just looking to clean this guy up. Now, the Chumfon has deep water torpedoes. And I get a little tunnel vision on this guy, and I kind of forgot until right about now that this guy probably launched torpedoes or could have against us. And so I'm going to try and turn out and get away from whatever line he threw them on. And I don't have my hydro to be able to detect these things, so I get away with one in that this guy never even shot his torpedoes at me. So I'm really thankful for that. So we're going to come around this corner, kind of go as quickly as we can. Maybe we can get our torpedoes involved. Technically, he's within range, so we do throw him out there right in front in case he decides to come out front. And if we miss these shots, but he's angled just perfectly. And with that, we get all the way up to 17 citadels for this game. Just an unreal game. When I saw that, it was just nuts at how many citadels we were able to get. But that's the power of these shells. I mean, they have great penetration for what it is as a cruiser. It does very well against other cruisers at the tier. And not as well with battleships, but that's what your HE is for. And so now it's pretty much just this Poltava that's on the enemy team and the carrier. And we're just going to go on in here, and we're going to try and retake this cap because why not? It's an opportunity to add more to our XP total and also potentially knock out some more planes for that fact. And here we're closing the distance, making it a lot harder for him to get the drop that he wanted against us. We're easily able to dodge these torpedoes. So now it's just a Poltava left. Looking back on this is probably not the smartest play for me or this cruiser. We're both really low. The cruiser in front of me is much lower than I am, so the Poltava is more than likely going to take shots at him rather than me. But if this Poltava player aimed right and got the RNG correct, he could still wipe us both off the board. However, I'm looking at kind of like the score and the fact that we have all the caps. Even if he were to take us out, I think we would have been able to survive anyway. But a little bit of a risky play and kind of an unnecessary one. I'll be honest, at this point, I'm just trying to pad my stats. And that's exactly what we're doing. We did get the Confederate finally, as that fire burned and ticked and finally got our Confederate. So a high caliber, a Confederate, still over 120,000 damage and ticking. And switch to AP to try and take out this Poltava, which does go flat broadside. And to be honest, I really thought this salvo right here was going to finish him off, and we barely get any damage against him at all. So just to show that these shells do penetrate well, but against heavily armored targets, even at range, I'm thinking I just didn't get a very good RNG roll. And that's another example of just how flat these arcs are on the guns. They don't go as high as some of the other cruisers of different nations can go. So you can't have any obstacles in your path. You can't hide behind islands as well, as we just missed out on the kill on that one as well. But here it finally ticks to 1,000 and the carrier ends up surviving. Overall, a great game. One that I was really excited for and wanted to show you. 17 citadels, 122,000 damage, high caliber Confederate, 3 kills, and 3,442 base XP is not bad. So the Gorky is definitely not a ship to take lightly. And if you angle appropriately and nobody shoots at you, you can do pretty darn well. So thank you, captains, for tuning in. 30 citadels out of 2 games is nuts. I'm guessing this is turning into the Citadel series as opposed to the Russian alternate cruiser series. But I've got the Talon next, which is a very good ship and one that I enjoyed a lot until it got nerfed. But let's see what we can do with her. Maybe we can make some lemonade out of that lemon. So thank you again, captains. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one. This is the USS Endeavor signing off.